Hello. So this is a new lesson for pre-calculus. This is going to be for 5.2. So go ahead and turn your books to page 408. I've noticed that I've been saying the word so a lot. I'm going to try to not say it, but either way, just want to let you guys know I've been missing you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy these videos. You have no choice. Actually, you have to like it. But here we're going to go ahead and just do 2 examples. And we're going to go ahead and look at this top part here, trig functions. So again, I told you to keep in mind, you're always focusing on x and y, these terminal points, meaning the coordinates, but they're not x and y anymore. They are cosine of t, sine of t. T just means of degrees of the radians. So it's cosine, comma, sine, x, comma, y. Here, you have this on your page, on your book, on page 408. It's the definitions. So sine is y, it's your y coordinate. Cosine is your x coordinate. Tangent is y divided by x. Cosecant, secant, and tangent, they are the reciprocal of these ones here. So I should put arrows here to tell you which ones they are reciprocals of. So once you have what sine is, you just flip it and it's the reciprocal of that. So cosecant, secant, and this is cotangent. So, for example 1, it asks you to find the 6 trig functions of each given real number t. So again, I don't like the radians. I prefer having them in degrees. You have the chart in front of you. It has degrees. It makes it a lot easier for you to put everything in terms of degrees. So I'm going to go on this side here. Here we have radians over 3. Again, remember 180 is what the radians mean. So always keep in mind, this is not pi, it's radians. It's 180 degrees, so to convert it to regular, all you do is simply just just put it in place of it, so 180 divided by 3, and you have 60. So I'm not going to be doing that for a lot of the work, as you've seen in the other ones, or in the future examples. So now, radians over 3 is equal to 60 degrees. If you look at 60 in your graph right here, it's these coordinates, so they're also called terminal points, but it's 1/2, comma, radical 3 over 2. I put that right here just to help me. I have to find 6 trig functions, so according to this, I have to go ahead and find them. So instead of putting your calculator, sine of 60, cosine of 60, and et cetera, because you're going to have fractions. You can't really have fractions all the time. They just want everything in fractional terms. Sine of 60, we know that sine is always the y coordinate. So if we look here, it's radical 3 over 2. Cosine of 60, we know cosine of anything is always the x coordinate. We have 1/2. The harder one is always tangent. Tangent is y divided by x. Y in this case is radical 3 over 2. And x is 1/2. If you notice, this is called a complex fraction. To get rid of them, you always multiply the denominator and the numerator by the reciprocal of the denominator. So this cancels out the denominator, and you're left with radical 3 times 2 over 2 times 1. These actually cancel out. Your tangent of 60 is equal to radical 3. These are easier because as soon as you find the reciprocal functions of each, you have 3 over 2. So that means a reciprocal, you mean you flip it. So that means it's 2 over radical 3. Keep in mind, we don't like radicals in denominator. Multiply the bottom and top by the radical, and you get 2 radical 3 over whole number 3. Cosine, you have 1/2. So if you do the reciprocal, it's 2 over 1, or just 2. And then cotangent of 60, cotangent is, tangent is radical 3. So to flip it, you have 1 over radical 3. So I would say the hardest part is just doing the tangent portion. But everything else is just common. Here on the bottom, if you can see it, and you can't really see me, gotta move this video. So here on the bottom, we have t of radians over 2, that's 90 degrees. 90 degrees on your chart is right here. It's 0, 1. Now, when you're looking for it, sine, I know that's my y coordinate, that's 1. Cosine, I know that's my x coordinate, that's 0. Tangent is y over x. Y is 1 over 0. If you notice here, if you just put exactly what you have here, y and x, you have 1 over 0. You cannot have 1 over 0, so in this case, 90 degrees does not have a tangent. Cosecant, so it's a reciprocal of your sine. 1 over 1 is still 1. So your cosecant is still 1. Your secant, remember, you're always making it as a fraction, you put it over 1. If you were to flip it, you'll have 1 over 0. You can't have that. So in this case here, 90 degrees does not have a secant. Cotangent, we don't have it here, but remember it's x over y. If you look over here, your x was 0, your y was 1. So in this case, you do have a cotangent of 90, it's 0. So be careful, go step by step. Some may have it, some don't. And on page 410, you do have a chart and it shows you what has it and what doesn't have it. Example 2 just tells you which ones is positive or negative for the signs. But again, this chart is like your best friend, especially since you're quarantined at home. You have these right here, positive and negative. So they tell you everything right here. You don't have to do extra work. Example 3. So example 3, that is on page 412. It tells you find each value. You're not finding each of the 6 trig functions. All you're doing is just finding the cosine of 2 radians over 3. I converted the radians into degrees. It's a cosine of 120. So here it says terminal point, not toilet paper, it's just terminal point. So here, terminal point, that means your coordinates. So the cosine of 120, if I look at it backwards, it is right here. It's negative 1/2 and radical 3 over 2. Here is your coordinate. The cosine, remember, cosine is always the x coordinate. So your cosine of 120 is equal to negative 1/2. Simple. B, it's tangent of negative radians over 3. Convert that to degrees, negative 60. Find the terminal point of 60. So 60 is right here. I have 1/2 of negative 60, I'm sorry. So 60 is right here, so it's 1, 2, 3 lines away going the positive direction. So negative direction, you're moving 3 lines away, it's gonna be 300. So your terminal point here is 1/2 comma negative radical 3 over 2. So keep in mind it's a negative, so you're moving the opposite direction. I always count the number of lines going north or south. So 60 up here, 2 lines away. So that means the opposite direction, if I'm moving in 60 degrees, it's 2 lines away, and that's at 315. Or again, you can just add 360 in place of negative 60. So negative 60 plus 360, you get 315. So now, sorry, 300. So it's 300 right here. Tangent, we know that's y over x. Our y coordinate is negative radical 3 over 2. Our x coordinate is 1/2. Multiply the top and bottom by the denominator, the reciprocal of the denominator, which is 2 over 1. You flip it. This cancels out. These cancel out, and you get negative radical 3. So your tangent of negative 60 is negative radical 3. If you have any questions, I'll make sure to put my email address down there. Make sure you're doing your work consistently. Just hopefully you guys can go through it all. I love you guys and have a good day. Bye.